Girlboss rally. I love this rally. It's the best. Hi, Arlan.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Good to see you. Are you guys having a good day? Learning lots of stuff, taking so many notes, ready to make it happen. Arlan Hamilton.
Yeah, two people. Appreciate you.
From homelessness to Dreamweaver, the founding and managing partner of Backstage Capital.
Yes.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to tell us a few interesting facts about you?
So just, if you haven't heard of Backstage Capital or me, 4 years ago I was on food stamps, 3 years ago I was homeless, and since then I have raised about $4 million to invest in 88 companies that are led by women, people of color, and LGBT founders. All right. Thank you. Thank you. And so it's about getting more access to capital with our small fund, hopefully setting an example for others, not just so Silicon Valley, basically venture capitalists, people who can write the checks, but may not know how much of an opportunity it is.
As a female founder, I think about female-driven entrepreneurship and funding, as I'm sure you do. What's one thing you would say about the good parts of being a female in the industry, and do you see changes happening?
Yeah, so there's some pretty terrible stuff about being a woman in this industry. I don't think, won't mince words there. But I think we have a really awesome opportunity right now in all this chaos.
What's the terrible?
What's the terrible?
Well,
well,
if you were to say, for you.
Are there any kids here?
Are there any what?
Kids, truly, are there any kids? So, the terrible is, there are a lot of dudes who don't know how to keep their pants on. And there's a lot of dudes who don't know how to treat you well in an environment where you're just trying to work. You're just trying to make the paycheck. You're just trying to start a company. And it happens, and it's coming out more and more. That's some of it. That's an extreme. Some of it is just being undermined or being underestimated, as we say. And I don't think there's anyone I have met that is a woman or a person of color or LGBT who has not experienced something because of who they are. It may not be all the time, but it has happened, these microaggressions or even worse. But the opportunity is that we all have a really awesome perspective. We have been through some things, and there's a perseverance that is really interesting and equips you for being a founder, in my view, or being on the team of a budding startup.
Do you think there are changes, though, that you see happening, and are you optimistic?
Sure, the change is this room, this room is awesome, right? So the change is...
How many people in this room are founders or want to be founders or are part of a founding team?
That's sweet.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
So this room, more and more space like this, and with all the stuff that came out, you may not be familiar, if you're in LA, you may not be familiar with a lot of the stuff that came out in Hollywood came out in the venture capital industry in Silicon Valley and elsewhere, and that's what I'm referring to. So all of that coming out, was pretty painful and messy, and but I think it shed light on things, and people, and you combine that with the existence of Beyonce and Cardi B, you can't stop us. You can't stop us. People are speaking up, and people are feeling empowered. I feel empowered even more so than before, and I got to tell you, I felt pretty empowered before.
I do say, and I don't know, I often wonder what Lemonade had to do with Time's Up and that whole entire movement.
That's interesting.
Because when I went to her show last week or 2 weeks ago, when you watch the audience, it was not like a normal concert interaction. It was definitely an anthem was happening. So I don't know. Anyways, just food for thought.
And I think more and more women of color are now feeling like they can have a voice as well, and that's super important because we drive culture.
Yes.
And thank you. Yes, you heard me. So that's a big part too. That's where I see a lot of the optimism.
Amazing. Well, Inc. magazine posted an article saying that only 2.2% of female founders got funding last year. Those are the those are just the facts that we're dealing with. What's your perspective? Did everyone here in this room know that when you started your company? Like, is that, and it's just a good thing, I think, for everyone to know, because it means that you're gonna have to be better, more efficient, you will be judged more harshly, and you have to overperform at a level that you may have never really anticipated to get that 2.2%. I don't think that 2.2% really accounts for LGBTQ or women of color.
Yeah.
So these are really like just astounding statistics around the possibility of people just starting companies.
It is, and if you look at black women, it was so low, it was less than 2.2% that it didn't even register. It was so few. And believe it or not, it was worse 5 years ago, 3 years ago, and that was around the time that I started seeing how, I saw it in real life. Like I saw so many people who were sending me companies and talking to me about companies when I was in Texas, and they were some really awesome companies, but they just couldn't even get in the front, like in the door. They couldn't even get a response from someone based on what we came to know was based on the slide in their deck that talked about their team. And I know several people today who do not put their face on their website or put it on their slide deck in fear that they will be judged by that. And these are people that are creating life-changing, life-altering companies. And that to me is really frustrating, but again, it's why I'm here, and it's why what I feel is such an opportunity for us.
Absolutely. What do you tell young female founders when they know these stats and they know this information, they've had some experience around the hardship? Like, how do you foster courage and confidence inside of them? Like, what are some of the things that you tell them?
Well, part of it is that I know it's hard, and also it sometimes feels insurmountable. So part of it is just like trying to help represent something that they can now look at and know that is there, and then also enable others. And that's why we invest in so many people. We saw 3,000 companies in the last 3 years.
Wow.
And of those, we chose.
How big is your team?
Well, our team today is 17, which is crazy to say. Like, honestly, I started this company while I was on a blow-up bed in my house, my apartment, and I had a whiteboard on the wall with like venture capital jargon that I had learned online, and I had about $12 in my bank account, and then I went and it got worse from there. Like, I ended up sleeping on the floor of the San Francisco airport for several weeks to raise this fund, and so the reason that
can we just like, come on, like,
thanks.
Inspiring. Like, that's what it takes.
I promise I wasn't fishing for compliments. But the reason that we invest in, that we see so many, they're there, and then that we invest in some, 1% that less than 1%. Today less than 1%, it's about 2 or 3%, is because we feel that we want to help enable more and more people to represent. So I try to be as realistic with founders as possible, and I tell them, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be worse, it's going to be unfair. And when I'm sitting across the table from a woman of color, I tell her it's going to be even worse for you. But there's hope, and some of that hope is in the work that my fund is doing and so many others. There's so many others, including Cross Culture, that Susie's in the building right now, that they've done for Los Angeles and beyond. And there's so many of us, and we're an army. And so you're going to have funding meet you. I also sat in a room in San Francisco about 3 days ago, I think. I don't know anymore. But I sat in a room with about 50 women from the All Raise group in San Francisco, and they all represented different major venture capital funds, and they're looking for change. And I sat in a room yesterday with Ellen Powell, and she's looking for change. So there's a lot of work being done.
Amazing. There's been a lot of discussion around the benefits of how women-driven entrepreneurship centers on a commitment to community. What are some of the ways that you lift as you climb? How are you helping other women? And how do other women help you?
So, yeah, a lot of it has to do with, again, Backstage is a for-profit sharky fund. But
with some amazing marquee LPs, if you want to sort of brag.
Yeah, that's true. We have a lot of LPs over time. So Stuart Butterfield, from the CEO of Slack, Brad Feld, who wrote the book on venture capital, in my opinion. Ellen Powell is an investor in our fund. Mark Andreessen and Heather Hiles, who is at one point had raised the most venture money as a black woman. And we have like 30 others from all sorts of funds and all sorts of people who are just amazing. The guy who started Google Maps, Lars Rasmussen, he's an investor.
Wow. Sorry, I'm going to come back to the first question.
Yeah, no worries.
How do you pitch them? Like, what do you say when you walk into their family office? These people are like billionaires. Like, how do you?
I'm not going away.
Yes.
I try to understand them. I'm not trying to say just because you have money you owe me anything. Nobody owes me anything.
Right.
But I think it took a long time. It took 3 years before I got a yes. One yes. And it took 3 years of that type of lifestyle.
How many meetings did you?
Well, it was a lot of remote stuff because I couldn't be anywhere. I was, you know what I mean? I had a laptop, thankfully, and I had a backpack, and that's about it. But yeah, what it was is like over time, they saw little by little that I wasn't going anywhere and that I wasn't a tourist. I wasn't in this for any weird reason. I really saw the opportunity there, and they did. So some of them, it was like pretty simple. It was like, this is something you're missing. Even if you found it, you wouldn't be able to get into the deal because some people base their investment decisions on who that partner is. And I can get in those rooms and I can be relatable. And deal flow is king, not capital. So you can have all the money in the world, but if you can't get to the deal, it's not worth anything. So that was a big way to frame it for people that they got. Some people admittedly gave me checks because they just believed in me, and they said, you don't have to bring it back. I don't, and to me that's like funny. It's like, well, you're gonna see it, back, believe me. And then there are some people who are like, just go out there and do more of this. And I like all three. I think all three have their merits. The ones that I don't take money from are the ones that think of us as a charity, or the ones who think of it as a way to cleanse their spirit of all of their crap. And I don't agree with everything that all of my LPs say and my limited partners who are investors in the fund, but there's a lot of different types of profiles in that mix. But I definitely have turned down money for certain reasons.
Got it. So I'll go back to the community question is, how do you feel like you are lifting the community around you as you climb and you're super successful and you are a known investor within the space? How are you helping women and how are women helping you?
Well, first of all, I don't feel super successful. I feel like I'm on the climb.
Sure.
And so I think everything that I do has that in mind. I started off by saying we're sharky. What we're doing is for profit, but I think anyone can tell you that we definitely try to involve community as much as possible, kind of peeling back the curtain to let people in on, with transparency. I think education, information. When Beyonce says let's get information, she's also saying let's get information.
That's right.
Okay, so that is what we're trying to provide. Right. She's always I'm just gonna talk about her all the time. You started with Janet. You got me on a roll because Janet's like, that's my hero.
It's what inspires me. I can't help it.
Right. So it's that. It's also in our team. So we went from 1 to 3 to 7 to 17. And our team is super diverse. If you go to backstagecapital.com, look at the crew page, that's our team. I have put, and this is a great room for it because there's a lot of you. So I have put this out there. If you can find a more diverse venture capital team page in Silicon Valley or elsewhere, I will send you $1,000 of my own money. I don't think it exists, but I'm really looking for it. So go to backstagecapital.com, look at the crew page, and see if you can compare it to other VC funds. And in doing that and enabling each of those team members to be their own type of entrepreneur, they go out and they spread that as well. And I just spent 3 hours online with with several people from the community to help them with education, connecting them to some of our current portfolio companies, and just building that. I mean, at South by, I'll do another year sort of comparison. 3 years ago, South by, and this is, okay, I'm not trying to fish for compliments, I'm just telling you the truth here. 3 years ago, South by, I slept in a car with my mom because we didn't have a place to stay, and I went out trying to raise money at South by because I was in Texas, and I knew that there would be people that could do it. Got no yeses, but did that. This year, we brought 56 of our portfolio companies to South by and had an event with them, including with our crew. So we thank you.
Boss.
Thank you. So but the reason, like, that helps them, and that's big for us in the room. But the way that is amplified elsewhere is where I hope the real impact is.
Amazing. It's so inspiring.
Thank you.
Backstage was specifically created to address the gap in underrepresented founder populations. What are the 3 things anyone who asks you for money should know? Ooh. So if you're a company that's going to come to pitch you as an investor, what are 3 things they should know?
They should know. That's such an interesting question. I know I don't prep for things, so I don't know if I had. What are 3 things that founders should know?
Think back to like all the amazing founders you've met that have an amazing idea that's not crystallized, right? And how long it takes to crystallize your idea as a founder. And as a founder, I will say it takes a long time to get to a point where you've actually crystallized what you're trying to do. For a long time, you're just sort of feeling it around.
Yeah, there's a few things. I mean, that this isn't for the weak.
Because you're in early.
Heart.
You're an early investor.
We are. We are early. We're post MVP, so post and post ID and all that. But we are very early. We're kind of like in the angel space.
Right. You're really based on an idea without a ton of track record.
Yeah.
Yet.
So it's important to let them know that this isn't for the faint of heart, and and I kind of compared when I talk to people. I'm like, a video game where I'm kind of old school, so like Super Mario Brothers, there's these different levels. Consider me like level 2 of the boss at the end. If you can't kind of handle the questions I'm giving you or like that pressure, it's going to be much harder as you go along.
So what are a few types of questions that you may ask?
So the other thing I was going to tell you is like about their numbers. Like if they don't know their numbers inside and out, even at that earliest stage, everything that I say to them is because I know what they're about to face.
Yes.
And so I'll ask them really simple questions because I'm coming from a place of like, I can't make the clock on my stove, stop blinking 12. Like, I'm coming from a place, I'm just learning about it too. But they need to know a lot more than I do about their company. A lot of times I'll ask them on purpose, innocently, though, I'll ask them, what about your competition? Who else is doing this? Did you hear about blah, blah, blah? And if they give me this blank stare on their face, like blank look on their face, and they didn't know that this company existed and it's in their space,
right,
that's a really big red flag. So I'll wrap it up by saying, I encourage...
know the competition.
Like, know the competition.
Okay.
Know how difficult this is, and know that you really want to be there.
Okay, so...
And know who you're talking to. Know if you should be talking to a venture capitalist at this stage, or if you should be talking to friends and family if they exist. Again, I don't know a ton of people that have friends and family that can peel off that check. But think about where you are there. And overall, what I'm trying to say is, like, do what I did and think of it as like your college thesis. Like if you don't know the ins and outs and backs and fronts of this, you're going to have a hard time.
So become basically obsessed with what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And sometimes, and that usually happens very organically.
Yes.
And that's where you see the awesomeness. Like, I could imagine you and I could have some interesting conversations about your company, like, because it seems like we
took about
a laser focus.
Our first check took 100 meetings.
Yeah.
And I will never forget the 100.
That's right.
Meeting.
That is literally that number for me is that.
But the 99 meetings before, those made me the best. I mean, like now it's very different, and even now the bar just keeps getting higher and higher and higher.
What's certain is that if you stop, it won't happen. That's the certainty that you can know. Everything else is uncertain.
Absolutely. Fake it till you make it. It's one of the biggest pieces of advice my mother ever gave me. She's my entire, like my parents are immigrants. They moved to this country so we could have the better life, and entrepreneurship getting a job was not an option for anyone in my family. That was not no one was encouraged to go get a job.
That's interesting. Is it about ownership?
My mom, I think, just is a super feminist, and she really, really believed in the promise of this country and thought that the idea that you could become your own boss was an amazing thing, because she's from Iran, and where that path was not as easily available for her. So for her, she's like, I have 3 daughters, and I want them to all be pursuing, in her mind, the highest office in the country is being your own boss.
Well, look at you. Look at you now.
I think, it's been fun. It's been fun. But I think fake it till you make it. I'd say, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do this, or it was a constant. She'd say, figure this out. I'm like, I don't know. Fake it till you make it. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? What does that mean to you?
Fake it till you make, it's hack your way.
Hacking your way.
Hacking your way, and part of that is like what my mom instilled in me, which was like from day one. I remember being like 4 years old and telling somebody something. There's no room you don't belong in. There's no room you're not allowed to be in. You know what I mean? Like that you don't deserve to be in. And that, for me, from day one, that was in my mind. So I cried on the floor, bathrooms. It has been hard, but I've always known that we all belong in that room, and it shouldn't be for a chosen few.
Absolutely. We're almost out of time, but I'm going to ask you for a fun fact about you.
Okay. This may not be fun for everybody, but it's fun for me.
It's fun for us. If it's fun for you, it's fun for us.
There's a lot. I mean, I guess, here's one. Like 3 or 4 years ago, I used to work in live music production. So I watched a concert at Coachella with Beyonce and Jay-Z on the side of the stage. That happened once. That happened. Yeah. That was cool. And I also, that same day I was working. I was a PA and I was a wrangler. And that same day I was driving a golf cart, and then I was with Usher. And he decided he was going to hang out of the golf cart and have somebody take pictures of him while I was driving it. And I thought, and I'm going to do one more. Y'all got boots on for these name dropping? I'm going to do one more. And that's in that car, we were behind Solange. Uh-oh. What? Also, you find me at Arlan was here on Twitter, because I know we have to go. And then also watch General Hospital, because it'll make you a better person.
Wow.
It'll make your life more enriched.
Wait. General Hospital.
Love it.
Why?
Without any irony.
Why?
This could be a whole 20 minutes.
Okay, give us like one, because
I love General Hospital. I've been watching General Hospital since I was a child, so that's part of it. Well, y'all, Carly and y'all gotta know. Okay, so I'm so impressed with the production of it. It's the best soap on television for sure.
I didn't even know it's still on. It's still on?
Yeah, thank you. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, it's the best soap for sure. That's why it's still standing.
Okay.
And Laura Wright, if anybody in this room, I feel like you do. If you know Laura Wright from General Hospital, who plays Carly, tell her I want to have wine with her, but I don't drink. So tell her she can have some wine and I'll have some water or Diet Coke. I just love the production value. I love the fact that they have to put on 40 minutes of content 5 days a week. So everyone behind the scenes and in front of the camera is amazing. Carly can cry on a dime. She can make you laugh. I'm getting all emotional because they're beautiful people. And I'll tell you the truth. The truth of it is, I look at General Hospital like a sports team, a little bit like they're my team. And honestly, through good and bad, I have had some bad moments, right? But through good and bad, I have a photograph of me at the San Francisco airport with my feet on my bag, going into another night of sleeping there. But thankfully, I had a laptop, And I have a picture of me from that time, like watching General Hospital.
Okay, will you post that picture
Yes.
on Twitter today?
Yes.
You're gonna post it on Twitter.
Yes, I will, because they're there, they're there for you.
Okay, we're gonna return tweet it.
General Hospital.
Just because it's so inspiring. Thanks for your time. It's so inspiring.